This is JacksportsTV.com. My name is Damian Bell. This is Brian Lyle, and I'm about to talk about one of Brian's favorite sports, and it's probably one of yours too. And of course, on Jack Sports TV, we talk all things sports, not just football, not just baseball, not just basketball, but his favorite sport and probably yours too. And I'm bringing it up because I was playing flag football over the weekend, and between the games, there was actual discussion about this event that I had never heard before, and it was detailed discussion. It was about a guy named Anderson Silva who did what he was supposed to do with MMA. Had a big fight over the weekend, drew a lot of interest, pay-per-view, people in the sports bars, people at home, but it was can't miss viewing. And my question is, with the wealth of sports that we already have ingrained into our habits, you know, the NFL around the corner, we're deep in baseball right now, what's it going to take for this hot new niche sport, MMA, to go to the mainstream? And I'll play the role of the old, dyed-in-the-wool, traditional sports guy who likes his baseball now, football later, boxing matches interspersed here and there, but can't quite figure out if we're really bought into this MMA thing. And what's it going to take for MMA to hit that main street and become a part of the Big Four, or the Big Five, or the Big Three and the other two? Will it be because the viewers actually respect the sport, get into the strategies, and follow these big names? Or will people just buy into MMA because it's brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers? And my man Brian, he's going to throw it at you and let you know. Well, first of all, what do you think about it?
Well, I think MMA's already in the game. To tell you a story earlier today, I happened to be on a treadmill and I'm looking up and I'm seeing a commercial from K-Swiss Shoes, and lo and behold, Uriah Faber is going ahead and marketing the product. So that's just another step in the right direction for MMA. MMA is mainstream. It's really grown into mainstream, and it's been amazing the last couple of years. And when I say couple of years, really it's been the last couple of years, how the sport has just exploded. Okay, it went from being a sport where it was kind of a niche sport to now it's grabbing the attentions of the masses. Okay, it's regulated in basically every state in the United States except the big one, which is New York. And I believe there's 2 other states. Other than that, it's regulated everywhere. I just read some things the other day where Dana White's looking to expand in China, looking to go in Brazil when the Olympics go down to Brazil. I think it's 2016. Okay, he wants to be there for that. It's already in England. They're going to go over into Europe and Asia. So MMA, the UFC is obviously the main brand within MMA, but there's also the promotion Strikeforce. Also some other local promotions that have a deal with NBC. We'll see how XFC, how that pans out as well. But you get a lot of debate as far as MMA versus boxing, and I don't really like to go along those lines because I think there's room for both. Boxing's been around for 1,000 years. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. The roots are too entrenched within Mexico. People talk about the heavyweight division in boxing sucks. It doesn't really suck. It's just you have the Russians, the Klitschko brothers, who draw 50-some-odd thousand people in Germany and Poland, but they have no interest here. I read something from Ross Greenberg, HBO president, who says, I have no interest at all in putting them on television on HBO unless we get Vitaly fighting Vladimir, or some other fight where it would be one of the Klitschkos fighting David Haye, who also holds one of the other heavyweight belts, but the true champs are the Klitschkos. MMA's here. You mentioned Spider Silva. It was a great fight. Great card. He fought a guy by the name of Chael Sonnen. Okay, Chael Sonnen gets it. Okay, he has a philosophy that I have. Okay, and he knows how to promote the fight. A lot of people don't realize a lot of MMA fighters are paid peanuts. Okay, a couple cards before when Brock Lesnar fought Shane Carwin fought for $40,000. $40,000. Okay, if he won it, he got another 40 G's. Then he got some pay-per-view money, whereas Brock Lesnar made anywhere between $300 and $400. With the pay-per-view, I read, estimated he walked away with $2 or $3 million. Okay, and you're talking about a fight that probably generated over 1 million buys. He should be walking away with about $6, $7, $8 million. Dana White has an excellent strategy right now, but I do believe ultimately it's going to backfire because fighters are getting paid peanuts. Absolutely peanuts. Brock Lesnar's cool for him. He made millions of dollars in wrestling, so he doesn't need that money. Okay. But for Shane Carwin, who also has to work a job as an engineer, okay, so he was paid $40,000, he lost a fight. With pay-per-view, he probably walked away with $300,000. That's lunch meat money. That's boxing after dark money on HBO. Again, that's a flat-out disgrace. Here we go, though. Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen talked so much stuff going into this fight. He talked about how he even had Lance Armstrong even got into the conversation where he talked about, Big Tex, where he talked about Big Tex gave himself cancer. Okay, and that ended up on Jim Rome, and I'll go down that road a little bit later on. But he gets it, talking stuff to promote the fight. He gets that. You see Money Mayweather, he gets that. Okay, people are going to watch the sport because either you're going to want to see him win or want to see him get stopped. Okay, that's why Money Mayweather gets the big dollar bills, and that's what it's all about, man. It's not about fighting. This is a job. You got to fight for money. Chael Sonnen backed up that talk. I'm not going to say he beat the daylights out of Anderson Silva. What he more or less did, though, for 85% of the fight was control him on the ground. He gave him good punishment, but to say he beat the daylights out of him isn't really true because Anderson Silva pretty much walked away without a mark on his face, like Muhammad Ali. Okay, but the way Anderson Silva in the 5th round with about a minute and a half left after he clearly got dominated in this fight, the way he won by a triangle chokehold with his feet on the ground, his legs, was just flat out amazing, and it just brought masses to the sport. Begging for a rematch. But here's the problem with Anderson Silva, though. Typically, his fights only average about 250,000 pay-per-views. So that's really, when you're having a pay-per-view, okay, the boxing model is if we get 350,000, that's okay, okay? Because not everybody can draw, a million. Not everybody's going to be Mayweather. Not everybody's going to be, even though he's retired, De La Hoya or Pacquiao. Guys that are draw numbers. So you can live with about 300,000, but if that's your main draw, your best pound-for-pound fighter, that's a problem, though. But it was a great card. You should really, if you didn't see it, you definitely got to see that fight.
Well, see, here's what throws me off, and you can tell that Brian is definitely pro MMA. And I'm not going to say I'm...
Well, I'm not going to say I'm pro MMA. I mean, listen. To me, I don't mean to cut you off. If it comes down to it, I would much rather see a great boxing match where two guys get clobbered, and all of a sudden you got to find it and find it in your will. To me, that brings out the best. That's what I want to see. Okay, there was a fight, a light heavyweight title fight this weekend on HBO, Tavares Cloud versus Glenn Johnson, the Road Warrior, okay, where from a physicality standpoint, it was far more physical than Chael Sonnen and Anderson Silva. Nobody talked about that fight, though, because a lot of people haven't heard of Glenn Johnson, nor have they heard of Tavares Cloud, okay? But to me, out of the two, I'm probably more 55-45 boxing versus MMA, but I will not admit, I mean, MMA is coming on strong. It's a great sport. It's a sport where, again, I talked about there's room for both. There's room for both, all right? Everybody wants to see Pacquiao fighting Mayweather. That's the fight everybody wants to see. And you're talking about anywhere from 3 million buys to 4 million buys. So that's going to blow anything the whole sport of MMA can do right out of the water in terms of pay-per-view buys. All right. But yes, the UFC, Strikeforce, then you have female fighters, which is a whole other ballgame within Strikeforce. It's just grabbing the attention of the masses. And it's something that, quite frankly, it's not going anywhere. So for all the haters that want to hate on it, it's not going anywhere.
Well, here's my issue. About 3 years ago, when MMA was making its little in-workings into the minds of the sports fan, there was this one fighter in particular who had a tough man contest background. And I'll purposely leave out the name because once I described the guy, it was like a bouncer, this black guy with a mohawk that would just beat up everybody. And he was basically forced into the mainstream, and we were told this is the ultimate fighter in MMA, XFC, throw the letters together, he was the man. And we were forced to watch a live TV broadcast of him on regular TV, and of course he was all over pay-per-view. He gets on TV and gets his head beat in, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Then he disappears. And of course the other names come in, but we were forced to believe that this was the guy, this was the face of MMA. And when we started paying attention, he fell apart. That's my issue with it. Do you think it was effective to force feed him to us to make us pay attention?
Well, you have to understand, when he originally came on board, we're talking about Kevin Ferguson, a.k.a. Kimbo Slice. Okay, Slice came on board and was part of the Elite XC promotion, which was a combination between Showtime and Gary Shaw, who's a big-time promoter within boxing. He's certainly, he's not on the level of Bob Arum or certainly Don King. And wait till I talk about that connection, because Don King could be back in the mix promoting Mayweather, so stay tuned for that. But they went ahead and they wanted to grab the attention. Kimbo Slice, he's an internet legend. He's beating up people left and right. He's from the streets, okay? He looks like he could just knock anybody out cold. unfortunately, the UFC is not all about knocking everybody out. There's other ways to win the sport. Submissions, okay? There's leg kicks. There's so many different tools within that toolbox where, give him credit. He was knocking guys out on the street, but unfortunately, he didn't have the right strategy, nor did he have the right skill set at that time to really be an effective fighter, okay? We're about to go on a quick break, but let me go ahead and finish by saying this. A lot of fighters, I try to use the A through F scale, okay? To me, Kimbo Slice, all right, when he started in MMA, he was in his young 30s. If he would have started in his young 20s, potentially he could have been maybe a B- fighter, okay? He never would have been able to fight for the title. But I give him credit, though, because eventually he ultimately became a C-level, low C+ level fighter. There were some guys he beat, okay? But listen, we got to go to a quick commercial break. I'm Brian Lyle, Damian Bell, back for more Jack Sports TV. Don't touch that dial.